we're going to get into our guy, Rashee Rice, who all draft season long, I've seen you on Twitter retweeting stuff. I've seen you get into it with Airhead Addict about Rashee Rice's player comps, calling him a Chris Godwin light, and other things. And so obviously how that came about, receivers are flying off the board, and he's one of the last few big body type guys, I would say.
Definitely.
In the draft, because it's a draft of a lot of small guys, and you can even find a small guy tomorrow later on.
Yeah, there's plenty of them left.
We made it a point to trade up 8 picks to go ahead and with the Detroit Lions to get this guy who's probably going to play a similar role to a Juju type on our team because he's got the same body and the same kind of playing style, but obviously younger. But we traded with the Detroit Lions to get Rashee Rice from SMU. Everyone's kind of raving about that. I think he had, correct me if I'm wrong on this one, but I believe he had led the nation in receiving yards per game last year.
I believe I saw that too, yeah. So
we're getting a guy, and also it's a guy that Mahomes obviously put the green light to go ahead and get Rashee Rice. And because we all know Veach ain't doing anything as far as receivers without talking to Mahomes about that. So that's a huge thing. But Teja, you've done a lot of research on Rashee Rice over the last few months. Talk to me like I'm a guy who's never heard of Rashee Rice in my life. What are we getting with Rashee Rice from SMU?
So when I was looking at, like I said yesterday, I kind of did a million mock draft simulations. I know those aren't exact sciences by any means, but I wanted to see what kind of players were available, general sense in that that range of picks we had. I knew we wanted to replace a gadget type player in McColl and the intermediate route guy, bigger body guy in the Juju. Not to say Richie James is replacing McColl, but we did get a smaller guy, right? We haven't gotten that bigger guy. We're talking about Hopkins, who's kind of he's not a huge guy, but he's definitely a possession guy. He brings the ball in. He makes those middle of the field routes. In general, I mean, he's a big body yak guy. He kind of reminds me of the ball in his hands. You watch some highlights. He's got a little Sammy Watkins in him with the ball in his hands. He bulldozes a little bit, kind of runs like a running back sometimes. I shared a clip online from the PFF, Steve, how he pancakes cornerbacks. So he's got that George Pickens in him. He just annihilates cornerbacks. He compared to, I think, Pacheco is what he did. Just got that dog in him, right? From what I've read about him, he's one of the most quarterback friendly receivers. Great at coming back for the ball. Great at noticing. They say he's the best, if not one of the best scramble drill receivers, which I think that played a huge part in probably why Mahomes loved him. I don't know if you probably heard about this by now, that he told Veach after he worked out with Rashee Rice to go get him. It probably had something to do with that. He's got negatives. Of course he does. Like I said this to someone online because they're like, what about this? What about that? He's a 55th pick overall in a weak draft. Of course he's got negatives. Yes, the top 20 guy has negatives in this draft. I mean, come on. They're all pretty equal. You got to find your guy. You got to find your guy replacement. We're looking for a replacement for Juju. They think they found it in him. He's young. We got him under control for 4 years. That's pretty much what it is. We can all nitpick on these guys all kinds of time, right? So, I mean, his deep routes need work. He's got a pretty weak route tree. The burst off the line is questionable. But again, it's a 55th pick overall in a weak draft. Just take what you can get, work with them. All the scouts I've read as far as player comps, they all kept saying Godwin. And I did see a lot of similarities with other receivers too. I did a whole deep dive into player comps and receivers. He was, I think, the most I saw for one player and for a player comp was Godwin and him. A lot of people said that about him. And we know you and I were watching a game earlier this season where I was like, man, Godwin would kill it in our offense. He'd be so good in our offense. I mean, easily clear 100 catches. But yeah, positives are elite ball skills, scramble drill master, catch radius, bully ball yak, can be moved around, and the short intermediate demon.
And I think the scramble drill is something that I think is an underrated thing for an underrated thing for us is whereas I think we probably prioritize the scramble drill aspect from a receiver more so than any other team in the league, obviously with Mahomes extending plays and all that stuff. So that's a huge thing, the fact that he already had that kind of in his arsenal. So I remember last year, a big thing when we brought Juju in was the kind of scramble drill aspect of things, because he said he really never had to worry about that with Big Ben. Obviously, if he played with Big Ben 15 years ago, yes, he probably would have had to do that, but he played with Big Ben at the latter part of his career, so he never really had to do that. I mean, that kind of thing. So
Ben tried, but it didn't.
Yeah,
it wasn't much scramble. It was more over easy.
Yeah, he was kind of over the hill at that point as far as doing that kind of stuff. But yeah, in order to get a guy like that, so you mentioned Chris Godwin, which yes. You talk about Chris Godwin, a like guy in this offense with Kelce and him with rub routes all day in the middle of the field, the possession, move the chains kind of guy, and the fact that he's a young talent. Yeah, 55th pick. He's not going to be. If he had all pros and there were no cons to him, we would have gotten him. He'd be a first round pick, and we would have had to trade up all the way to get something like that. So that's one thing I've seen a lot of people are trying to nitpick and call out things. Our guy Lewis Cutbirth. Okay, so you did a little deep dive on this, and I know Lewis has been kind of a harsh critic to all of our picks so far, going to last year or yesterday and today. But this is something. It's a good point. The drops aspect. That's something that I've seen mixed bag. Chris Sims online on Twitter said great hands, but then I saw also at the same point people were talking about he had inconsistent hands. Yeah. So when you've done your research, obviously you have no stock in Rashee Rice, although it seems like it because you bought the stock many months ago.
I did buy it. I bought big.
But what do you, as far as what you've seen, so you've taken such a deep dive on him, obviously we'll all watch highlights of every guy and we'll think they're freaking all-stars. They don't drop passes ever, highlights. But talk to us about what you've read about the hands aspects. I've seen a mixed thing. Some are saying he's got great hands. Some are saying he's got bad hands. Talk to me about that.
I didn't really see a lot of, he might have had a bad game. Okay, great. Tyreek Hill had a lot of drops with the Chiefs. I don't know if I necessarily say Tyreek Hill has a drop problem. Has he had bad games before and bad stretches? Sure. I didn't see that as one of his main negatives. The biggest negatives I saw, like I said, were just his route tree. A lot of it was his get off. He can't release that well off the line as well, considering what the PFF guy said too about him was, considering how big and physical he is, you'd expect him to run through contact all the time. He doesn't always run through contact. When he gets kind of held up by a cornerback, it kind of stops him dead in his tracks. And not that that's an unusual thing for a young receiver, a college receiver, but the way he plays and his size and how physical he is, they said you wouldn't expect him to get stopped the way he does, even by smaller cornerbacks. He doesn't play up to his size. I mean, he's obviously physical if the same people are talking about him pancaking cornerbacks and tossing them around on run plays. He's a physical guy. Will he get better at that? I mean, hopefully he's going to win more consistently. But I think the Chiefs have a lot of options at receiver, and they don't need to force someone into a position that they're not ready for. I don't think we are going to throw Rice in positions. He doesn't need to. We have a lot of guys. We're not a top-heavy team with a bunch of bums after it. Those days are over. We have a lot of options to spread it around with. A lot like Sky Moore this year. We didn't force him into a lot of stuff. If you saw, we started doing a lot of the bubble screens to him, just get him going, find his niche, find his the point where he can contribute and work off that, and then work on his rough spots, like his route tree, like his release package. But I mean, if you look at, he's got incredible ball skills. He has one of the best catch radiuses in any player of the draft. He catches really tough balls. He catches passes you don't think he's going to catch. So yeah, might have drop problems sometimes, sure. But if you have one of the best catch radiuses, and he had 16 contested catches last year, I mean, he's might have some bad spots, but I wouldn't say that's a problem for him.
Yeah, I mean, it's the reason why I asked is because now I know Lewis brought up the one bad game that he had against Cincinnati, but I think it was Kuiper or McShay had mentioned that he had inconsistent hands, but then I saw the Chris Sims thing where he said he had, great hands. And then I think also Klatt on the NFL Network, they were praising the pick and saying how solid guy in all aspects. And it's another weapon in the arsenal for Mahomes and the Chiefs.
He had 156 targets, man.
So it's also that SMU that offense is
insane amount. So you're gonna, I mean, you are gonna, there,
true.
How many people on this chat can name SMU's quarterback?
Yeah, that's a good question.
So I don't know how accurate. There you go. That was a quick one. I knew someone was gonna come with that. I knew. It's like someone's got to say it at some point here. Anyway, the point is, like, a lot of these top receivers, what do they have in common? Addison, top quarterback. Njigba, top quarterback. I mean, even Quentin Johnson, a good quarterback. That matters. 156 targets for a not so great quarterback.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it also there's more chances of drops when you're in offenses that pass so much. There's also it's like an offense that drops back so much. Those tackles are going to allow more sacks and more pressure than an offense that doesn't drop back so much. So I mean, yeah, it all matters. That's also that context matters everything. I think I saw our guy Cole here. Rashee Rice is not related to Jerry Rice as far as I'm concerned. Unfortunately, not. But hey, we can call him Jerry Rice when he has a big game.
You might hear some cheesy commentator jokes about that if he has a good game.
Yeah, he's looking like Jerry Rice today.
He may not be related to him, but he's playing like him today. I'll tell you that much. One of those.
Lewis Cuthbert. Yeah, Mahomes did want CH. Yeah, it didn't work out. So, oh yeah. Okay, so that's interesting. So he might have had a 2-year crossover with Bouchel.
Oh man, that means the Chiefs fans should love him because
they should. Yeah,
he's got like the third biggest like fan corner of any player on our team.
This is true. And also, one thing about Rashee Rice, I know he's the fastest guy. We ran 4.51 for a guy his size. That's pretty solid.
I mean, okay, yeah.
And that's the thing. I saw a lot of people using that as a negative against him. Our receiver room doesn't lack speed at all. That's not an issue. And he's not going to be the burner on our team anyway. We have plenty of guys to be the burner. So that's one thing I just want to like kind of point out to that.
He's here to catch tough balls, can catch contested balls. That's his main attribute. We're not. We didn't get him to be our speedster deep threat. That's not who he is.
Yeah, we need another guy outside of Kelce who can move the chains. Yeah. Because I think all of us don't want to have to go into an AC championship game with Marcus Kemp or McCole Hardman trying to catch these contested balls in between the hash marks. Hardman did it and re-injured himself. Let's not forget that. That's not his job. Those small gadget guys aren't supposed to be doing that kind of stuff. A guy like this is supposed to be doing that. So keep that in mind.
His other player comps that I saw, by the way, were Brendan Ayuk, and Michael Gallup. Pretty
good.
Yeah.
Solid. I mean, I think anybody would. I mean, a lot of people here wanted to probably trade their second round pick for Brandon. Well, first, I think Niners wanted the first round pick for Ayuk. So, yeah, no, I do agree with Noah John Marshall here. I mean, I think Pat has to be cut in on a lot of this. All the stuff we're seeing, especially with pass catchers, defense, sure, they don't have to bring in Pat for that, but we're utilizing Pat as a resource and an asset with this whole Texas camp he has. We were able to try out guys like Quentin Johnson, Zay Flowers, Rashee Rice. We're able to get guys in that system with him to see what's going on and how's it looking. So, yeah, so it's a beautiful thing to have Pat be able to do that.
And Mahomes didn't have a whole day to play with CEH, and afterwards he gave his seal. He just liked his playing style and said, oh yeah, get that guy for our team. He actually spent a day playing with Rice. So he has a good idea of what he's about and what he's going to bring. And I'm not sure when he made. I don't know the timeline because Lefko didn't really get into that. But he told Veach, "Go get this guy after working out with him." I don't know at that point if he also worked out with Johnston and Flowers. So I don't know if he was like, "This is the guy you need, not the other two." I don't know how that went, but I mean, I know at the end of the day, he gave the seal of approval for Rice, which means something when your quarterback says that.
Well, and I'll say this too. I mean, obviously Pat's kind of weighing everything, right? If you, based on the play with those guys, right? So he threw around with all three of them. If he's saying go get Rice, he obviously knows Rice is going to come later. So I'd rather, it's okay to get this guy in the second round. You don't need to trade up and do anything drastic to get one of those two. It's not that. Pretty much what all the experts have been saying. It's not that big of a drop off from wide receiver 4 to wide receiver 9.
Also, for everyone in the chat, we're not a normal team. We're not like the Bears trying to make a star out of a guy in the second round. We're different than that. We have the benefit of one of the best play callers of all time and one of the best quarterbacks of all time and one of the best O-lines in the NFL. So we're not the normal situation. If they think I can scheme up a good offense with this guy, I know exactly what to do with him. They already have that plan in mind. It just, just honestly, like as cliche as it sounds, like let them cook, like let them just do it. If that's the ingredient they need to make the perfect burger, let them friggin' make the perfect burger. I say burger because I know we all know Randy Reed loves burgers, so do I. But just let them do what they need to. It's like watching someone like throw something into a pan. You're like, whoa, dude, they're a world-renowned chef. If they throw too much cayenne in there, none of your business. Just let them do it. Like, just let them put it in the pot.
That's a good analogy. It's true, and I think that's one thing that I sometimes get annoyed trying to have nuanced conversations with fans. I'm sure everyone on the chat can understand this on Twitter when you say stuff it's like, well, the response about who we should draft, but it's true. At the end of the day, I can have a draft crush all I want to. We can have a draft crush, but
sure.
But the moment we go in a different direction, draft somebody else, like, oh, okay. I had a tweet earlier. I wanted DeJuan Jones. DeJuan Jones is still on the board. We ended up drafting Wanya Morris. We're gonna get into a little bit. But I had a different quote tweet. I said, okay, Wanya Morris, let's get it. And someone's like, well, I thought you wanted DeJuan Jones. Like, well, I did. We didn't go in that direction, but now I'm all aboard on the Wanya Morris. So that's that's kind of the way things should be going, because Veach has given us no reason not to trust him. I know there are some doubters out there with the whole Dorsey versus Veach stuff, but like Veach has not given us any reason to doubt him. He hasn't. CH missed, but look at his late round picks. Look at everything he's done.
Can he be wrong? Sure, he could be wrong. I mean, he's not a perfect GM. I mean, these guys, it's not perfect. This whole system is not perfect. And again, this was not a great draft by any means. So, but if that is who they deem the best guy to fit a void that's been clearly left by another guy, in this case, Juju, that's just got to give it to him.
What was the you were telling me something about what Reed had said about Juju and replacing Juju, the kind of guy he wanted with Juju?
I mean, he was just kind of describing Rice. Just not great at anything, just really good at a lot of things. Not the biggest guy, but big enough. Not the fastest guy, but fast enough. He's good with the ball in his hands. He's not a Tyreek Hill, but he's a reliable guy to get the ball into and get you out of a jam. It's pretty much what Rice is to a T.
Yeah.
I mean, those player comps, and someone was even like, oh, Godwin ran a 4.42. I'm like, first off, 4.42, 4.51. It's not a huge difference. And he had a better 10-yard split. He had a better vertical. He had a better broad jump. He's got longer arms and bigger hands than Godwin. So there you go. I think that makes up for the 0.9.
Yeah. No, for sure. All that matters, especially the 10 yards in this offense, what he's going to be able to do.
Yes.
The 10-yard split. So no John Marshall. So he pointed out that Rashee Rice played with Shane Buechele in 2020. They were together, and those are his numbers right there. 48 catches for 683 yards when he played with Shane Buechele. So, hey, I'm sure Buechele had a hand in trying to get Mahomes to take a little deeper look at Rashee Rice. I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, they both work with Bobby Stroud, so that would make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was 2 years ago too. Okay, so I mean, he was a young buck.
Yeah, he had 5 touchdowns that year. So, yeah, I mean, hey, I could definitely see that playing a factor in this whole thing.
Hey, Rice might be catching passes from Buechele in preseason.
You're damn right. They're going to tear it up in the third team.
Yeah.
This is a question though. So obviously, everyone who watches the show knows how me and JD are the biggest DeAndre Hopkins fans. And we'll get into that this coming week with JD. But I want to ask you, Teja, as kind of what you've seen, do you think that the Rashee Rice addition means no more DeAndre Hopkins?
I mean, never say never because it's Veach, but I don't. If we had drafted one of the small dartier receivers, or the deep threats, I'd say it's still okay. We're in an okay position to get D-Hop, but I just think now we have some skill set redundancies. I don't think they're ever going to. If it's a great deal and Arizona's swallowing salary or something, I don't think we'd say no because of Rice, because let's be honest, Hopkins is a 1 to 2 year deal, probably maybe 3 at the most. Okay. So I don't think that's stopping anything, but I think it's less likely getting a guy like Rice's skill set. I'll put it that way.
But here's the one thing I will have a pushback to that because, I'm a big Hopkins fan. Obviously, if Rice is the guy, then that's fine. But going back to 2013, if you look at rookie receivers, the numbers they put up, because this offense is not the normal offense. It's a very tricky offense to understand. So going back to 2013, these are all the numbers of all the rookie receivers we've had. So Sky Moore, 22 catches, 250 yards, 0 touchdowns. Regular season. Cornell Powell, 0-0-0. McCole Hardman, 26 catches, 538 yards, 6 touchdowns his rookie season. Tremont Smith, 0-0-0. Jehu Chesson, 2 catches, 18 yards. Demarcus Robinson, 0-0-0. Tyreek Hill, 61 catches, 593 yards, 6 touchdowns. He's the outlier, I would have to say. Chris Conley, 17 catches, 199 yards, 1 touchdown. And Deron Brown, 0-0-0. So when you hear that, all the rookies, what the rookies have done since the Andy Reid,
and even he wasn't a rookie last year, but even Kadarius Toney Hart, he didn't play even half a season for the Giants.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying these guys, the rookies have a hard time kind of breaking through. Rookie receivers have a hard time breaking through in the Andy Reid offense, at least in the 10 years he's been with us. So, that tells you something. That there could be a possibility that we still go get a veteran. That's what it tells me, at least.
Yeah, we have the veteran, if you want to say MVS, though. So we do still have that.
But if we're talking productivity, though, the productivity behind the rookie receivers not really not doing anything in this offense.
Well, I agree. Look, as it stands, I think we all agree Mahomes is going to throw for 45 to 5,200 yards, right? Somewhere in that range,
more or less, yeah.
Besides Kelce's 12 to 1,400, that's a lot of yards. It's going somewhere, man. At least 2 guys are catching 900 or 800.
Yeah.
You got about 3 or 4 that are probably going to be over 600. Let's go ahead and say MVS is one of those. If it's not Rice, it's got to be Toney. It's got to be Sky Moore, unless Richie James totally steps up. We're going to need to see production. I know Toney's not a rookie, but he was basically a rookie in our offense. He came in midseason, right?
Yeah.
His last 2 years combined in the NFL, he started eight games. So he hasn't even played a full season yet, right? Yeah. Pretty much a rookie in our offense. Sky Moore was a rookie in our offense. Rashee Rice will be a rookie. They're going to have to find their way. Mahomes is going to have to just throw them open and just start to adapt. I will say, with the kind of player, with the kind of skill set Rice is bringing, it is friendly in this offense, right? If he's really, really good at finding a soft spot, finding an open spot just to sit and catch a ball, he will get playing time because Mahomes will utilize that.
But regardless, whether we get Hopkins or not, let's just say we don't get Hopkins, this receiver room is very fun and young and hungry. That's one thing JD said. Whether we don't get Hopkins or not, this receiver room is a very hungry and young room. And even, let's say, and talk about the Rosses, John Ross and Justin Ross. John Ross, first round pick who's really done nothing in this league, and he's hungry to make a name for himself. Hopefully, maybe he does one in Kansas City. Don't know. I think that's going to go the same way Corey Coleman went last year, really make the team. But then you have Justin Ross coming off the injury, potentially could make some noise in this offseason, in this offense, as to battle back from the injury. So maybe that can happen. But then you got the young guys, the Sky Moore, the Western Michigan doubted him. And then Rashee Rice, new guy. So there's a lot there with this receiver.
It's going to be fun. I thought last year was going to be fun. This is going to be even more fun.
Oh, 100%.
This is like a total mystery.
Yeah. So, I'm happy that we ended up getting this guy. I'm happy we didn't go for another guy of the same mold of the small little guys. And
we needed something different.
Yeah, we have enough of those. We have enough of those for sure. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out the best clips from Chief Concerns. And if you prefer to listen to the show, subscribe and follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and anywhere else you get your podcasts.